All right, we're going to go ahead and stop this now, and we're going to go over the answers. All right, on number one, when it asked for a data set where 50 was the median, median means middle, the middle value. So you have to put the numbers in order from smallest to largest and see which number is in the middle. Okay, so if I have 50 as my middle number, then I need numbers on each side. And so it doesn't matter what numbers they are. I'll do 60 on this side and 40 on that side. I could have stopped right there. 3 data points, 50 is in the middle. But as long as I have an even number on, or the same number on one side as I do the other side, 50 would be in the middle. So I could add as many here as I wanted to, as long as I have the same number of items on both sides. 50 will still be in the middle. For number 2, the reason that these 3 angles are not complementary is because by the definition of complementary angles, it must be 2 angles that add to 90 degrees. 2 angles. If you have more than 2, they're not complementary. Only 2. Only 2. Same thing with supplementary. It has to be 2 angles that add to 180. So complementary and supplementary, it must be a pair of angles. For number 3, we had to find the perimeter of the triangle. Perimeter means distance around. Distance around a geometric shape. Okay, so we had 3 sides, and these numbers are given to us as mixed numbers. They have fractions in them, so our answer should have fractions in it as well. If I'm going to do this by hand, I would have 23 1/4 plus 19 1/2 plus 29 3/4. I can add them up this way as long as the fractions have a common denominator. The common denominator is 4. So this is 23 1/4. This is 19, and if we change 1/2 into fourths, it's 2/4. And 29 3/4 is already in fourths. Now we can add the fractional parts. 3/4, 2/4, and 1/4 would be 6/4. 23, 19, and 29. 99 is 18, 19, 20, 21. And then 2, 4, 6, 71. We get 71 6/4. But 6/4 is an improper fraction. We cannot leave 6/4 as 6/4. It can't be changed. So 6/4, this really means 71 plus 6/4. And 6/4 is 1 2/4. 1 2/4 is 1 1/2. So this is equal to 72 1/2. 72 1/2. Okay, so that was the answer for number 3, 72 1/2. For number 3. Number 4, it asked for the the choices there that were not coordinating conjunctions, the ones that were not coordinating conjunctions. And the coordinating conjunctions are the fanboys. Fan, F stands for for. F is for, A is for and, N is for nor, B is for but, O is for or, Y is for yet, S is for so. So the three, or the four rather, that were not coordinating conjunctions were by the way. That is not a coordinating conjunction. Fantastic. That is not a coordinating conjunction. Sometimes is not a coordinating conjunction. Nowhere. Nowhere is not a coordinating conjunction. So the four that you should have had checked should have been those four. All of the others were coordinating conjunctions. All right. For our new folks, we have a bunch of new folks, so we'd like to welcome all of the new folks to our class. We have about 5 or 6, I think. This is part of the routine each morning, almost probably 99% of the time. We will have a warm-up. You will go to the student.desmos.com. I'll have the code on the screen. You'll enter that code. I want you to make sure, new folks, that you use your name, not a nickname, because I need to know who you are. And so, putting in Hoochie Mama is not appropriate. I need your name so I know who you are when you are doing these drills. Okay. All right. Homework. You all had to do the sheet on make sure I'm pulling up the right one. Let's see, let me find it here. Make sure I'm getting the right one. For our new folks, homework is a requirement. It is not an option. Class, y'all want to tell our new folks what happens if you don't do your homework? Yep, that's right. Hit the road, Jack. It is a requirement. It is not an option. So is class participation and attendance. All right, here are the answers to the homework from Thursday. It was a mix of multiplication, division, adding and subtracting integers. So take a look at those, see if there are any of those that you would like for me to work. If you can't see my screen, you may need to log out real quick and jump right back in. Sometimes when the screen, when I do a flip, sometimes your screen doesn't flip correctly. So you may have to log out quick, log back in, because you should see a page that has a bunch of problems on it with green answers. If you're not seeing that, then you may need to jump out and jump back in. Also, sometimes it just takes a few seconds for it to finally switch over. We have class Tuesdays and Thursdays, 8:30 to 12:30. If you got all these right, that is super duper fantastic. If you only missed a couple, 2, 3, that's good too. Now, if you missed a whole bunch of them, then you need some more work. And in Blackboard, on where the assignment was, I think the folder up above it, or the thing up above it, had some extra practice if you wanted some extra practice. All right, any of those that you have a question about? And new folks, you will find that we do something that I call spiraling. So we are constantly going back to stuff that we did previously. You can ask anybody in the class. If we learn something, it's not the last time we see it. We see it over and over and over. All right, I'm going to switch then to the grammar. You had to finish the last 2 pages. Let me switch over. On page 79, you had to rewrite those sentences, so the answers are going to vary depending on what you wrote. But on page 80, here were the answers for those. All right, any questions about those? All right. Hold on a second. All right, today we are going to be looking at something that we did back in the unit that we did with decimals, where we are putting things in order from smallest to largest or largest down to smallest. But this time we're going to have negative numbers involved. So this will be a good review because it's going to take decimals and fractions and negative numbers and negative fractions and negative decimals, and again be putting them in order where they belong, whether going from largest to smallest, smallest to largest, or putting them on a number line. Okay, so you need to get out your notebook so that you can take notes. I'm going to pull up the first video. All right. All right, so let me switch over, close that out, pull this up. All right, you should see my screen, my YouTube screen.
What I'd like to do in this video is order these 6 numbers from least to greatest. So the least of them being on the left-hand side and the greatest on the right. And I encourage you to pause this video and see if you can do it on your own before we work through it together. So assuming you've had a go at it, so let's do it together. And to help us there, let's plot these numbers on a number line. And I have a number line up here. So there you go. There is a handy number line. And let's just take them one by one. So the first number here, we have 7/3. So let's see if we can express that in a different way. If we can write that as a mixed number. So 7/3, how many wholes are here? And a whole is going to be 3/3. So this is going to be, let's see, this is going to be 3/3 plus another 3/3 is going to get us to 6/3. And so you're going to have one more third left. So this is 7/3. 3 plus 3 plus 1 is 7. So this is 3/3 is 1 whole, 3/3 is 1 whole. So this is 2 and 1/3. So 7/3, same thing as 1, 2. And you see between consecutive integers, we have 3 spaces. So we are essentially marking off thirds. So 2 and 1/3 is going to be 1/3 of the way between 2 and 3. So it's going to be right over there. So that is 7/3. Then we have -5/2. So same logic. Negative, use that green color. So I can do it over here. -5/2. Well, that's the same thing as the negative of 5/2. And 5/2 is going to be 2/2 plus another 2/2 plus 1/2. So this is 2.5. This is 1, and that's a half. So this is going to be, so it's 1 plus 1 plus 1/2, 2.5. We have our negative out there, so it's negative 2 and 1/2. Let's see, negative 1, negative 2, and then negative 2.5 is going to be halfway between negative 2 and negative 3. So it's going to be right over there. So that is negative 5/2. Then we have 0, not too difficult. It's actually labeled on our number line for us. Then we have negative 2. Negative 2, once again, on our line for us. Two steps, 2 whole numbers to the left of 0. So negative 2 is going to put us right over there. Then we have negative 12/4. So it might jump out at you immediately. 12 divided by 4 is 3. So this is going to be the same thing as negative 3. So this is negative 12/4. Or if you want to use the type of logic that we used in these first two numbers, you could say negative 12/4 is the same thing as the negative of 12/4, which is 4/4 plus another 4/4. So that gets us to 8/4 plus another 4/4. That's 12/4. And this is 1, 2, and 3, or negative 3. So negative 3 is the same thing as negative 12/4. And then finally, one more number, negative 3.25. So you could view this is the same thing. Negative 3.25 is the same thing as negative 3 25/100. And 25/100 is the same thing as 1/4. 25 is 1/4 of 100. So this is the same thing as negative 3 and 1/4. So let's see, let's go negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. We have to go a fourth, and we're not going to be able to do it super precisely, but it's going to be less than a third. So it's going to be right over there. So that right over there is negative 3.25. So we wanted the numbers ordered from least to greatest. Well, we've done that. The least is negative 3.25, then negative 12/4, then negative 5/2, then negative 2, then 0, then 7/3. And we are done.
Okay. The second video.
We're told to look at the rational numbers below, order them from least to greatest. They really didn't have to tell us this first sentence. I would have known to look at the rational numbers to order them from least to greatest. Well, anyway, they tell us 1/2, negative 5, 3.3, 0, 21/12, negative 5.5, and 2 1/8. So the easiest way to visualize this might just be to make a number line that's long enough that it actually can contain all of these numbers, and then we can think about how we can compare them. So let me just draw a huge number line over here. So take up almost the entire screen. Let's see, we have some negative numbers here. We go as low as negative 5.5. And we have some positive numbers here. Looks like we go as high as 3.3. This thing is still a little less than 2. So we go about as high as 3.3. So I can I could safely, I think, put 0 right here in the middle. I can go a little bit to the right since we have our negative numbers go more negative. So 0. And let's make this negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. And, well, that should be enough. Negative 5. And then in the positive direction, we have 1, 2, 3 in the positive direction. And let's see if we can plot these. So to start off, let's look at 1/2. Where does 1/2 sit? So it sits, let me make the scale a little bit better. So this is 1, 2, and 3, and 4. All right, so let's start with 1/2. 1/2 is directly in between 0 and 1. It is half of a whole. This right here would be 1 whole. This would be 1 whole. Let me label that. This over here is 1. So 1/2 is directly between 0 and 1. So 1/2 is going to sit right over here. So that is, let me write that a little bit bigger. You probably have trouble reading that. All right, 1/2, which is also 0.5. So this is also 0.5. Anyway, that's where it sits. Then we have negative 5. Negative 5, well, this is negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5. Negative 5 sits right over there. And then we have 3.3, positive 3.3. I'll do that in blue. Positive 3.3. So this is 1, 2, 3, and then we want to do another 0.3. So 0.3 is about a third of the way, a little less than a third of the way. It'd be 3.33333 forever if it was a third of the way. So a third of the way, it looks like about right over here. This is 3. This right over here would be 3.3. Let me label. What I'm going to do is I'm going to label the numbers on the number line up here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 0, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, negative 4, negative 5, and so on and so forth. And then we get to 0, which is one of the numbers that we've already written down. 0 is obviously right over there on the number line. So I'll just write this 0 in orange to make it clear. It's this 0. Then we have 21 over 12, which is an improper fraction. And to think about where we should place that on the number line, let me do this in this blue color. To think about where to place it on the number line, let's change it into a mixed number. It makes it a little bit easier to visualize, at least for my brain. So 12 goes into 21. Well, it goes into it one time. 1 times 12 is 12. If you subtract, you get a remainder of, well, we could regroup here or borrow. If you don't want to do this in your head, you would get 9, but let's do this. So if we borrow 1 from the 2 becomes a 1, this becomes 11, or we're really regrouping a 10. Anyway, 11 minus 2 is 9, 1 minus 1 is 0. So we have a remainder of 9. So this thing, written as a mixed number, 21 over 12 written as a mixed number, is 1 and 9/12. You get 1 12/12 in there, and then you get 9/12 left over. So 1 and 9/12, we can also write that. Actually, we could have simplified this right from the get-go, because both 21 and 12 are divisible by 3. But now we could just divide 9. We can simplify 9/12, divide both the numerator and the denominator by 3. We then get 1 and 3 over 4. 1 and 3/4. And just to make it clear, I could have simplified this right from the get-go. 21 divided by 3 is equal to 7, and 12 divided by 3 is equal to 4. So this is the same thing as 7/4. And if you were to divide 4 into 7, 4 goes into 7 one time. Subtract, 1 times 4 is 4. Subtract, you get a remainder of 3. 1 and 3/4. So going back to where do we plot this? Well, it's 1, and then we have 3/4. So we're going to go 3/4 of the way. This is halfway. This is 1/4, 2/4, 3/4 would be right over there. So this is our 21 over 12, which is the same thing as 7/4, which is the same thing as 1 and 3/4. And then we have negative 5.5. Negative 5.5. I'll do that in magenta again. Running out of colors. Negative 5.5. Well, this is negative 5. So negative 5.5 is going to be between negative 5 and negative 6. So let me add negative 6 to our number line right here, just to make it clear. So let me go a little bit further. Let's say that this is negative 6. Negative 6, and our number line will keep going to smaller values. Scroll to the left a little bit. Negative 6. If we go to negative 5.5, it's smack dab in between negative 5 and negative 6. So this is negative 5.5 right over there. And then finally we have 2 and 1/8. I'll do that in orange again. Well, I'll do it in blue. 2 and 1/8. So it's 2 and then 1/8. And so if we want to find the exact place, we could divide this into eighths. This would be 4/8. This would be 2/8, and that would be 6/8. And then 1/8 would sit right over here. So that right over there is 2 and 1/8. So we've actually plotted as best as we could the exact locations. You didn't have to plot the exact locations if you were trying to just order them, but it doesn't hurt to see exactly where they sit when we order them. So now we've essentially ordered them because we stuck them all on this number line. The order is negative 5.5 is the smallest, then negative 5, then 0, and then positive 1/2, then 21 over 12, then 2 and 1/8, and then 3.3. And we're done.
All right. Those are our videos. I have that it's 9 39. So we're going to take a 15-minute break. Put in chat here. So we're going to take a 15-minute break. So that means we're going to be back at 9:55. Not 9:56, 9:55. All right, so I'll see you back at 9:55. I'm going to take a break as well. New folks, do not log out. You stay logged in so that it's recording your time. All right, I've got 9:55, so everybody should be back. And we are going to be working on something together. All right, that link will take you to a document that should look like this. So you can either print that out if you like, or if you would just like to work it on a piece of paper, that would be fine. We're going to be working these together, so you're going to be following along with me. All right, so we're going to get started. Again, this is the sheet that you should see, that you should have. Some of this is a review of stuff that we've done. This first one is actually a review. If you'll remember in the past when we've been doing comparing fractions, so for example, if I have the 3/5 and the 7/10 here, we did something called the butterfly method, if you'll remember. The butterfly method means we take these two numbers and multiply them together. 3 times 10 gives us 30, and we write it up there in the corner like that. And then 5 times 7, we multiply those two numbers together and we get 35. So then we look at these two numbers and compare them. 35 is bigger. So that means that 3/5 is less than 7/10. 7/10 is bigger than 3/5. Now, if we're going to mark this on the number line, our number line's already been drawn for us, and here is 0, and here is 1, and it's been marked off in tenths. And I know that because I can count that from here to here is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I've been marked off in tenths. So if I'm going to plot these on this number line, 7/10 would be at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 would be that point right there. There is 7/10. Then 3/5. Well, the best way to plot 3/5 is to change 3/5 into tenths. Remember that we can take any fraction and multiply the top and bottom by the same number, and it will be an equivalent fraction. So I can take 3/5, and if I want to turn that into tenths, then if I multiply the bottom by 2, 5 times 2 is 10, I would have to multiply the top by 2. 3 times 2 is 6. So 6/10 is the same as 3/5. And 6/10 would be right here. Okay, so you can see how we are comparing the fractions, seeing which one's bigger, which one's smaller, and then placing them on the number line. All right, for this next one, this time we've got negatives. So that means we're going to be on the left side of the number line from 0. Here's 0, so we're going to be on the left side. So negative 1/4, this number line is marked off in fourths, and I know that because I can count 1, 2, 3, 4 until I get to negative 1. So each one of these is a fourth. This is 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. So negative 1/4 would be right here. And negative 3/4, 1, 2, 3, would be right here. With negative numbers, the farther left you go, the smaller the number. The more negative you are, the smaller you are. So negative 3/4 is smaller than negative 1/4. So negative 1/4 is bigger. Okay, so when we're dealing with the negatives, we have to kind of look at it a little bit differently. We have to think about where do those numbers fit or sit on a number line. All right, let's look at the next one here where we got decimals. Now, the first thing I notice about this problem and the decimals here, I've got one that's positive and one that's negative. Well, it's obvious then that the positive decimal is greater than the negative decimal, because the positive decimal is going to be on the right side of 0. Here's 0. The negative decimal is going to be on the left side of 0. And let's see how we have these marked off. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. And so this means that this number line is marked off in fifths. 1/5, 2/5, 3/5, 4/5, 5/5 would be 1. In decimal format, if we take 1 and divide it by 5, we get 0.2. So that means that this is 0.2, this is 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, and then 1. So 0.8 sits right here on the number line. And then we have the same thing on the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is marked off in fifths. And 1/5 is 0.2. So this is a negative 0.2, a negative 0.4. This is a negative 0.6. This would be a negative 0.8. And so negative 0.6 lies right there. And so negative 0.6 is smaller than 0.8. Okay, let's look at the next one. We've got negative 2.5 and negative 0.5. Which of those two do you think is more negative? Which one is more negative? Okay, but be careful because it's not 2.5, it's negative 2.5. So negative 2.5 is more negative. And so if we start at 0, the negative 2.5, we would go negative 1, negative 2, and negative 2.5 sits right there. Negative 0.5 is only a half. It's right here. And so the number that's more negative is the negative 2.5, which means that the more to the left that you go, the smaller you are. And so it is the negative 2.5 is smaller than negative 0.5. I'd rather owe 50 cents than $2.50. Negative 2.5 is more negative, it means it's smaller. The further you go to the left on the number line, the smaller you are. Okay, on the next problem. On the next problem, we have 0.75, so that's a negative number, and the number line is marked off in fourths, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so this would be negative 1/4, negative 2/4, which is negative 1/2, and negative 3/4. So I know the negative 3/4 is right here. Negative 0.75. If we look at 0.75, we know that that's 75 over 100 because there are two decimal places. So remember from when we were doing decimals and we were converting decimals into fractions, you take and write a 1 and then you put a 0 for each decimal place. And so since there are two, this is over 100, and then we take the number and write it on the top. But this will reduce. 75 over 100 is really 3/4. 25 goes into 75 3 times, 25 goes into 100 4 times. So negative 0.75 and negative 3/4 are the same number. They are equal to each other. They're exactly the same number. Okay, look at this next problem. What's the first thing you notice about this next problem here? There should be something that jumps out at you right away. Should be something that jumps out at you right away. Because remember, we're deciding which one's bigger, which one's smaller. There should be something that just jumps right out at you that automatically tells you okay. So everything y'all are saying is correct. That is true. But the thing you should notice is that one of those numbers is negative, the other number is positive. So without even looking at where they are on the number line, the negative number is smaller than the positive number. So I don't have to really even look on the number line. If I know I've got one number that's negative and one number that's positive, the positive number is going to be bigger. Okay. Then to plot this, 0.25, that is a fourth, that is 1 1/4, because 25 over 100, 0.25, 25 over 100 is 1/4. So this is marked off in halves. So 1 1/4 would be right here. So that's 1.25. And negative 1/2 is going to be at negative 1/2 right here, negative 1/2. So on the number line, that's where those numbers would be plotted. And so the 1.25 is bigger than the negative 1 1/2. Okay, on this next part, it wants us to just put greater than or less than or equal to. Well, I've got negative 1/2 and negative 2/4. One of those is not reduced. We can reduce one of those fractions. Which one can we reduce? Which one can we reduce? Okay, correct. Then negative 2/4 is not reduced. Negative 2/4 is equal to negative 1/2. 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 4 twice. So I have negative 1/2 on this side and negative 1/2 on this side. They're equal. Okay, let's look at this next one. We have a negative 2 3/5 and a negative 4/5. So you need to think which one of those is further out to the left on the number line. Which one's further out? Which one of those would be further away from 0? Okay, so think about a number line. And we have 0 right here, and here's negative 1. Negative 2 would be right here. So negative 2 3/5 is going to be way out here. Negative 4/5 is not even all the way to negative 1 yet. It's right in here. So the negative 2 3/5 is further out on the number line, further to the left. So which one of those is the smallest? 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 Remember, to be the smallest, you're further out on the number line. You're further to the left. The more left you go, the smaller you are. So the negative 2 3/5, correct, is the smallest number. So negative 4/5 is bigger. So I should have a less than sign there because negative 2 3/5 is further out on the number line. So you have to kind of look and think, where is that number on the number line? The more left you go, the smaller you are. The more right you go, the bigger you are. So on this one, we have 2.75 and 2.7. The best way to compare those two would be to put a 0 on the end of that 7. We can do that. 2.7 and 2.70 is the same number. So now, which one of those is the bigger number? Okay, right. It's further to the right on the number line. When we have our number line, and here's 0, and here's 1, and here's 2, 2.75 is going to be here, but 2.70 is going to be closer to 2. So 2.75 is bigger than 2.7. So with positives and negatives, it's the opposite. Okay? With negatives, the further left you go, the further out on the number line you go, the smaller you are. The bigger numbers are always to the right. Okay? All right. What do you notice about this one right off the bat? I don't even need to think about a number line because I see something that's going to help me right away. Good. Again, we have a positive and a negative. Anytime you see that you got a positive number and a negative number, the positive number is bigger. And so this one is bigger because it's positive. This one's negative. And so it's to the left. The 1.22 is to the right. It's a bigger number. Then for this one, we have a decimal and we have a fraction. Usually if you have a decimal and a fraction, the best thing to do is change one of them to the other form. And so I'm going to change negative 1/2 into negative 0.5. So again, we need to think about our number line, and here's 0, and here's negative 1. These numbers are not quite to negative 1, but one of those numbers is closer to negative 1, is further left than the other one. Which one is further out on the number line? Which of those two is further left or further out on the number line? One that's the furthest out on the number line. Which one of those is furthest out on the number line? Okay. Yes. Negative 0.9 is close to negative 1, but negative 0.5 is in the middle. And so negative 0.9 is smaller because it's further left, which means negative 0.5 is bigger. Okay, on this one, we have a negative 3.2 and a negative 3.25. Since this has 2 decimal places, I ought to write this one with 2 decimal places, and I can do that by adding a 0 on the end. One of those is further left, further out on the number line. Further out. One of those is further out on the number line. Careful, we don't have a 3.5. We've got a 3.2 and a 3.25. So one of those is further left. Further left. Okay. Yes, that is correct. We have 0 here. Here's negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. The negative 3.25 is further out than the negative 3.2. So negative 3.25 is smaller, which means the negative 3.2 is bigger. So you have to be visualizing this in your head, which one is further out to the left. All right. On this next group, we're putting the numbers in order. And in this case, we want smallest to largest. Okay. So here we have a bunch of fractions. When we were doing fractions back in our other unit, and we were putting these in order, at first we were just looking at the fractions, but then once we learned how to change fractions into decimals, we converted everything to decimals. And so if I punch this in the calculator, 1 divided by 5, I'm going to get negative 0.2. Negative 1/2 is negative 0.5. And negative 2/3 is negative 0.666 repeating. Okay, we're going from smallest to largest. Smallest to largest. So with negative numbers, the smallest number is the furthest one out to the left, the one that's way out to the left of the others. Which one of those is further out to the left? Which one of those is further out, more negative than the others? One of those is more negative than the others. Okay, correct. The negative 2/3 is more negative, so it is the smallest. So it should be the first one that we write. Then which one would be next? So we've eliminated this one. The next one would be which one? Got to be careful. We're looking for which one is more negative. So we're looking at a negative 0.2 and negative 0.5. Which one of these is more negative? And more negative means it's the smallest. Which of these two, negative 0.2 and negative 0.5, is more negative? Okay, waiting on a few more of you to answer. Which one of those is more negative? Okay, it's the negative 1/2. Negative 0.5 is more negative than negative 0.2. More negative. And so negative 1/2 would be next. And so of these, the largest number is the negative 0.2, which is negative 1/5. It's closer into 0. It's less negative than negative 0.5 and negative 0.6. So you have to kind of think in reverse order when you're dealing with negatives. The bigger the negative number, the smaller it is. The smaller the negative number, the bigger it is. So it works differently than numbers on the right side of 0 on the number line. Okay, this next one should be easy to do. We're going from smallest to largest. Which of those is the smallest number out of 1.3, 0.3, and negative 3.1? Which one of those is smallest? Okay, we're looking for the smallest. The smallest. Okay. Some of y'all aren't being careful. We've got two positives and a negative. So this negative number is to the left of 0 on the number line. Negative numbers are always smaller. So the smallest number is negative 3.1. Then which one would be next? After negative 0.31, which one is next? We're getting bigger each time. And so the next one that's the biggest is the 0.3, correct? 0.3 or 0.3. Then the last one, the biggest of these numbers, is 1.3. Okay. All right, on this last one, we've got some fractions and some decimals. So to me, the best thing to do is change everything to decimals. Negative 9/10 is negative 0.9. That 10 tells us we're in the tenths place, one decimal place. And this is negative 2.8. So we have three negative numbers and one positive number. Which number goes right here automatically without doing any other work? Remember, we're going from smallest to biggest. So the biggest number is 1.8. It's the only positive. All the rest are negative. So since it's the only positive, it has to be the biggest number. Which one of those has to go right here automatically? Because it's the very smallest number. It's the one that's more negative. Okay, correct. The negative 2.8 is the more negative number, and the more negative you are, the smaller you are. And so this should be negative 2 and 8/10. We should write it in the form that the problem gives us. So what we have to do is determine which one of these is next. So I have a negative 0.9 and a negative 0.8. So I need to know which one now. We're going from smallest. So between negative 0.9 and negative 0.8, which one of those is more negative? More negative, which makes it the smallest. More negative. Okay, correct. The negative 0.9, which is negative 9/10. So one here has to be the last one, which is negative 0.8. Okay, so those are the numbers in order from smallest to largest. Okay, so hopefully you see how we're pulling back what we did before when we did these. When we did them before, all the numbers were positive. And so we just had to look at which ones was the smallest and then which ones got bigger from there. Now we're throwing negative numbers into the mix, but you have to keep in mind that the more negative, the further out to the left that you go, the smaller you are. So a big negative number is actually a very small, tiny number. Okay, negative 1,000 is much smaller than negative 100. I would rather owe $100 than owe $1,000. $1,000 is much, much smaller negative number than negative 100. Okay. Any questions about that? So it's really taking everything that we've done, let's see, and adding to it the negative numbers. Okay, so let me take a look at this. Okay. All right, the next one we're going to work on together is this one. Okay. All right, so give me a second here. Okay, it should look like this. And on this one, we are taking the number that they give us and we're plotting it on the number line. Okay, so we're going to do some of these together. The first one is positive 3/5. Positive 3/5. So are we to the right or to the left of 0? Are we to the left or to the right of 0? Okay, correct. And the reason is we are positive. All of our numbers to the right are positive. All of our numbers to the left of 0 are negative. So then what we need to do is look and see how this grid is marked off. It's marked off in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 pieces, so each of these sections is a fifth. Each section on this number line is a fifth. Right? So 3/5 would be at 1, 2, 3, would sit right there on the number line. Okay, let me erase all of this that's at the bottom down here so it doesn't get confusing. And let me redraw that. So 3/5 is right here on the number line. Okay. Then we have 0.8. These are also, this is also to the right, exactly, because it is a positive number. So it's going to be to the right. And this is in decimal form. These are still fifths, but in decimal form, fifths are 0.2. So there's a fifth, there's a 0.2 section, there's a 0.2 section, there's 0.2, there's 0.2, and there's 0.2 again. 0.2 is 1/5. So 0.8 is going to be 0.2, 0.4, this is 0.2, this is 0.4, this would be 0.6, so 0.8 is right there on the number line. Then we have 7/8. 7/8. So this time it's marked off in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's marked off in 8 pieces. So each one of these markings is 1/8. So 7/8, we start at 0 and it's going to be to the right. So we're at 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, 7/8. Okay, look at this next one. Are we to the left or to the right of the number line of 0? To the left of 0, to the right of 0. Okay, correct, because it is a negative number. So it's going to be to the left of 0. So each one of these markings is a half or 0.5. Here's negative 0.5, negative 1, negative 1.5, negative 2. So negative 0.5 sits right there on the number line. Okay, on this next one, we have negative 1/4. Are we to the left or to the right of 0? Okay, correct, because it is negative. Negative numbers are to the left of 0. So how many, if I start at 0, here's 0. If I start at 0, how many hash marks am I going to move to the left? How many of these hash marks am I going to move to the left? Okay, if I move 4, I would be moving 1, 2, 3, 4. That would put me here. So negative 1/4, each one of these markings has to be a fourth, since there are 4 markings or 4 spaces. So negative 1/4 has to be 1 hash mark over. 1 hash mark. So this is at negative 1/4 right here. Look at the next one. Negative 2/3. Our hash marks are marked off in 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. We're at negative 2/3. I'm going to start at 0. Am I going to move left or right? Left or right? Okay, correct, because we are negative, we're moving to the left. How many hash marks from 0 will I move? Starting at 0, how many of these marks do I move to the left? Okay, correct. We start at 0. Since it's 2/3, we move 2 hash marks, and so negative 2/3 is right there on the number line. Okay, let's look at this one. We're at negative 0.75. Negative 0.75. Each of these hash marks, and we're at negative, so that means we're moving to the left. How much is each one of these hash marks? How many units over are we moving for each hash mark? Careful, we're going from 0 to 1, and we have broken it up into 1, 2, 3, 4 chunks. 1, 2, 3, 4. So each chunk is not 4. Each chunk is how much? We've taken the whole piece, -1, and chopped it into 4 pieces. So if we take a whole piece and we chop it into 4 equal parts, each part is how much? Okay. Yes, each part is 1/4. So each of these is a fourth, and we're going in the negative direction. And in decimal format, 1/4 is 0.25. So each hash mark is 0.25. We've got to go to negative 0.75. So from 0, how many hash marks do I move to the left to end up at negative 0.75? Good. Yes, 3. 1, 2, 3. This would be negative 0.75 because each hash mark is 0.25 and we're going in the negative direction. So we need 3 0.25 sections. All right, let's look at the next one. Okay, we're going to 2 1/3. So what we have to realize here is that they chopped off some of the number line. The number line keeps going this way. And so really, this is at 1, 2, here would be 1, and there would be 0. Each hash mark on this number line represents how much? Each chunk represents how much? Each one of these chunks, each one of these pieces is how much? Okay. Be careful, from here to here, it's 1. That's going from 2 to 3 is 1 unit. But we've taken that 1 unit and we've broken it up into chunks. So I'm asking you, how much is each chunk? Each one of these pieces is how much? Okay, yes, good. It's 1/3. Each one of those pieces is 1/3. So if we're going to go to 2 1/3, I've got to go start at 0, and I've got to go to 1 and then to 2. And then from 2, how many hash marks to the right do I go? How many hash marks do I go from 2 to get to 2 1/3? The number of hash marks I go from 2 to get over here to 2 1/3. Correct. One hash mark would be 2 1/3. All right. Let's look at the next one. The next one, we're dealing with decimals. So we know we've got to go to -1, and each one of these hash marks represents a certain amount. Based on the fact that we're going to 1.4, -1.4, how much is each of these chunks in decimal value? What is the value of each one of these chunks? Just like up here, it was 1/3. Each chunk was 1/3. Here, each chunk was 0.25. Here, each chunk is, be careful, be very careful. How many pieces is it from here to here? Let's start there. How many pieces is it to go from -1 to -2? How many chunks are there? Okay, correct. There are 5, not 6. There are 5. 5 chunks to go from 0 or from 1, -1 to -2. There are 5 chunks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we've got to take 5 chunks and write a decimal for each chunk. What would be the fraction part for each chunk? If we have 5 chunks, we've taken one whole and we've divided into 5 chunks. Each chunk is how much in fraction form? Right. Each chunk is a fifth, or -1/5, since we're going in the negative direction. Well, what is 1/5 as a decimal? What is 1/5 as a decimal? Careful, careful, careful. Whoa, 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 whoa. Remember to change a fraction into a decimal. You take the number on the top and you divide it by the number on the bottom. So punch that in your calculator. 1 divided by 5. There we go. Each chunk would be 0.2. So let me erase all this mess off of here now. So if each chunk is 0.2, we've made it to -1, and we've got to go to 0.4. How many hash marks to the left do I move to get to 0.4 if each chunk is 0.2? Okay, each one of these is 0.2 or -0.2. So we would move 2 hash marks. That's correct. 1, 2. Because this would be -1.2. This is -1.4. Okay, so we started at negative. So you have to look at the graph and see what units the number line is divided into, what kind of chunks, and then count over to get to the correct number of whatever the number is that's on there. Question? Miss Dunn, you have a question? No, I didn't move 3 because I got the number line keeps going this way, and we were at 0 out here somewhere, and so we got to -1, and once we are here, we moved 1, 2 hash marks over, 2 spaces over, because each space is 0.2. So this is 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, 1 unit. Okay, so we took one section and we divided it into 5 equal parts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this makes up one whole section. And so each chunk is a fifth, because we have 5 chunks. And in decimal form, that means each chunk is 0.2. Okay, so that means that if each chunk is 0.2, then one hash mark over is 0.2, the next hash mark over is 0.4, the next hash mark over is 0.6, the next one's 0.8, and then we're at the whole number because we add 0.2 to 0.8 and it takes us to the next whole number. Okay. All right, let's look at this last one here. If I get all this erased. Let's see if it will. All right, so we're looking at this last one. All right, so the first thing we have to realize is, all right, we're going in the negative direction because we have a negative sign. We've got to go over here to -1, so we've moved over this much. We need to look at how many chunks we have and how much each chunk is. There are 4 chunks. We're dealing with fractions this time, so how much is each chunk if we have 4 equal chunks? How much is each of these chunks if we have 4 that are all equal? How much would each of these chunks be? This chunk, this one, and this one. We have 4 equal chunks, so each chunk is how much of the whole? Each chunk, how much of the whole? Each chunk. How much is each of these chunks? We have 4. We've taken one piece and we've divided it into 4 equal pieces. So each piece piece is how much of the whole chunk, the whole piece. One whole piece divided into 4 equal pieces. Each piece is how much? Okay. Correct. Each chunk is 1/4 of the whole amount, or 0.25 if we were doing decimals. So if each chunk is a fourth, each hash mark represents a fourth, 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, 4/4. So we've made it from 0 out here to -1, and then we need 3/4 more. How many hash marks to the left do I move from the -1? How many hash marks to the left do I move to get to -1 3/4? Okay, yes, very good. We move 3 because this would be -1 1/4, -1 2/4, -1 3/4. So -1 3/4 is right there. Okay, so do you see how you have to, first of all, look, are you moving in the positive direction or are you moving in the negative direction? Then you need to look at, all right, am I dealing with decimals or fractions? Then I need to look at each hash mark. How much does each hash mark represent? If I take from 0 to 1 or 0 to -1, how many chunks are there? And what amount does each chunk represent? Is it a third? Is it a fourth? Is it a fifth? Okay. All right. So I'm going to have you work on some by yourself. So the first one that you're going to do is that one. And it looks like that, which is what we did just a little bit ago, the first sheet that we did. So it's basically identical to the one that we did at first. So I want you to work on this first. I have that it's 10:52. I believe you should be able to be done with this by about 11:10-ish, maybe sooner. So I want you to start working on this. You may use your calculator. So I want you working on this. And as you finish, please let me know. And then there are some of you that I need to talk to you individually. So I'm going to be pulling you out into a break room. So if you see your screen kind of go weird and then it pops you into a break room, then that's what has happened. I have pulled you out to go into a break room. But everyone else, you need to start. Let's see. Yes, thank you for helping each other out. All right, like I said, I need to talk to Mr. Long. Is Miss Carter here? No. Mr. Satterwhite and Miss Schramm. I need to talk to each one of you individually, so I'm going to be pulling each one of you into a breakout room. The rest of you keep working on the assignment, the classwork. All right, everybody, I am back. Okay, let's see. Some of y'all are having questions about yes, ma'am. Did you get my my message in the chat? Okay. Yes, as long as you're making up as long as you've got your 6 hours for the week and you email me and ask me for the homework assignment, you're good. So it's 11:13. We started at 8:30. That's not quite 3 hours. So depending on how long you're in class on Thursday, you may need some makeup time on Essential Ed. Okay. Okay. A couple of you are having questions about, what is it, the mixed number part? Okay. So I'm going to switch to all right, I'm going to switch to my whiteboard and I'm going to do a little bit of explanation as to how to change mixed numbers. Those of you that are okay with that, you can keep working. You should probably be getting close to being finished, so please let me know in the chat when you're finished. Okay, so for those of you that need a little bit of refresher, let's say I have 2 2/3, and I want to change this into an improper fraction. Okay, improper fractions are fractions. An improper fraction is a fraction where the number on the top is larger than the number on the bottom. Like 5/3. 5/3 is an improper fraction. 11/4 is an improper fraction. The way you change an improper fraction and fix it is to change it into a mixed number. And what you do is you take the number on the bottom and you divide it into the number on the top. And so 3 does not go into 5, but if I add a decimal, then 3 would go into 50. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait a minute. What am I saying? I've got something else on my mind. 3 goes into 5 once. 1 times 3 is 3. Subtract, and we get 2. There's a remainder of 2. So 5/3 is 1 2/3. 11/4. We divide 4 into 11. 4 will go into 11 twice. 4 times 2 is 8. 11 minus 8 is 3. So 11/4 is 2 wholes and 3/4 left over. To go the other way, to change a mixed number into an improper fraction, you take the number on the bottom and you multiply it by the whole number part. 3 times 2 is 6, and you add the numerator. And we get 8, and in this case, thirds. 8/3. If you're going to change a fraction into a decimal, 3/7. You punch in your calculator 3 divided by 7. And when you punch that into your calculator, you get 3 divided by 7 is 0.4285711429, and that probably keeps going. We would round that to whatever is necessary for what you're doing. A lot of times we round to about 2 to 4 decimal places. If you round it to 2 decimal places, you look at the 2, look next door at the 8, it tells us to round that up, and this would be 0.43. If you're going to change a decimal into a fraction, you look at how many decimal places there are, and we're going to be, the denominator is always going to be 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, but that's determined by the number of decimal places. I have 2 decimal places, so the fraction is over 100, and the number on the top is 27. And then you look to see if you can reduce. If I have 0.14, that's one. Let's do one that's. Let's do one like 0.130. That would be 130 over 1,000, and that will reduce. 10 goes into 130 13 times. 10 goes into there 100 times. So it may be a little difficult at first. You will get used to it because all of this is stuff that we've done in other units prior to today. But you can ask anybody in the class. We still do all of this. It's still, we do it all the time. So everything we do comes back, and we are constantly reviewing and doing what we did in the past. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Satterwhite. You're right. Every class, every time, every day, we're pulling all the stuff back that we've done before. So if you're kind of not comfortable with it yet, then you will. It will, because we're going to be doing it over and over and over and over and over. Everything we do always comes back. All right, so y'all are letting me know when you are done, because I see maybe 2 or 3 people that have said they're finished. Is there anybody that's still working on this that has not finished? Let's do it that way and see how many people we still need a little bit more time. Okay. Okay. I'll give you a little more time. All right. Even though some of you may not be finished, that's okay. Let's go ahead and look at the answers and see if you have any questions. So let me pull up the answer. Okay, so it may take a second, but it should pop up on the screen. Those are the answers for the first two sections. Okay, let me scroll up. All right, so let me know which ones of those you have a question about. Okay. Plotting these points on the number lines a little bit more difficult because the units may not necessarily be, for example, here you've got 2.55, so we've got to look at where 2.5 is. Well, 2 and here's 3, there's 2.5 in the middle, and 2.5 is 2.5. So 2.55 is a little more, so it's got to be a little more to the right of 2.5. The same thing happens down here with negative 0.25 and negative 1/2. Negative 1/2 is right here in the middle between negative 1 and 0. Negative 0.25 is a fourth because this is 0.5, so it's halfway between the 1/2 and the 0. So again, it's a little with these where the units are not necessarily, the chunks are not divided in the same way. You know, up here, the chunks are divided into fourths, but 0.8 is fifths. Okay. All right. Any other questions about these? I've got another one for you to be working on that's similar to the last one that we did. Or is it? Maybe it's not. Let me see. Okay. All right, here's the next one that I want you to work on, and it's got more like GED style questions on it. So let me put it here. It looks like this. Okay. So there's some example problems. And then you've got 5 multiple choice questions to look at. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to work on this. Don't know if this will be as difficult. It's still kind of looking at a number line and having positive and negative numbers. Okay, but I've got that it's 11:34, 10 minutes. See if you can't get that finished in 10 minutes. Okay, who's still working? It's about 8 that have said you're finished. Anybody else? All right, I'm going to go ahead and show you the answers. So number 1 was 4. Number 2 was 5. That's answer choice 5. Number 1 was answer choice 4. Number 3 was answer choice 2. Number 4 was answer choice 5. And number 5 was answer choice 4. Any questions? Number 2. All right, let's see what number 2 said. Number 2 said, on a number line, Max places a mark 3 units to the left of the point halfway between 1 and -3. So here is negative, no, number line places a mark 3 units to the left of the point halfway between 1 and -3. So you have to start with the point between 0 and -3. Let me see if I can open this way. Okay. Let me see if I can zoom in on that. Okay, so they said, first of all, we are at +1 and -3, and the point that would be halfway between there would be -1. Okay, so you've got the boundary of +1, the boundary of -3. There are 2 units to the right, 2 units on that side, 2 units on this side. So -1 is the number that's halfway between -3 and +1. Then it said go 3 units to the left. 3 units to the left from that -1 would be 1, 2, 3. You would be at -4. That makes sense?
Yes. Are you gonna put more practice up today or no?
Not any more classwork. You'll have some homework, but
Yeah, that's
we're
what I mean. Like when you put the homework up, would you put some more practice? Or I'll just hop on Friday and we can work on that if you're okay with it.
okay. All right. It may take me a little while to find some more that's similar to this, but I'll
Okay.
look, and it'll be in
Okay.
Blackboard.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you, Mr. B. I
Yes,
appreciate
ma'am.
it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Any other questions about these? All right. Last week on Thursday, we started focusing again on our grammar. We're going to be continuing to focus on grammar for a while because we're going to actually be doing some writing. You do have an essay portion of the GED on the Reading Language Arts GED. It counts 20% of the grade of your score. So it could be the difference between passing it and not passing it. So it is important. And they look very carefully at your writing. Are you writing complete sentences? Are you using correct grammar? Are you making complete thoughts? So we're going to be doing a lot of practice for the next probably 2 weeks or so on writing sentences, and then we're going to move to writing paragraphs, and then we're going to move to writing actual essays, and go through the entire process for that. When you are writing sentences, you have to be careful about your words that you use, the words that you choose. You cannot write like you talk to your friends or to your family. And so there are some words that you should not use in your writing. Okay? There are some words that you should not use when you are writing. One of those that is a common mistake is the word minds. Minds is not a word. The plural is the word mine. That is mine. That car is mine. When you say mines, you're saying mine. Oh, that dress is mine. oh, those shoes are mine. When you say mine's, it's not proper grammar. Another one that you need to be careful of is be. We don't say, I be going to the store. You say, I am going to the store. So you want to be careful about your word choice and how you write so that you are writing something that's grammatically correct. In your job, you may not be in a position right now where you are having to communicate with customers or communicate with your coworkers or communicate with your boss. But when you are communicating with customers, if you finally are at a point where you're communicating with customers or you are communicating with your boss, you want to sound professional. You want to use proper grammar, proper English. And when you do the writing portion of the GED, they're going to be looking to see that you are using correct grammar. Okay? I have a couple of videos. Some of this will be review, talking about sentences and how to formulate sentences and so forth. But again, it is important because you've got to be able to communicate and write effectively in order to pass. All right, hold on. Let me switch over. Stop. So a good bit of what you're going to see, for those of you that are, my old folks that have been with me, we've been talking about grammar and we've been talking about sentence structure and so forth. And so a lot of this is going to be review. It'll be new for some of you new folks. Okay, so again, you want to get out your notebook so that you can take some notes. This actually talks about the extended response part of the reading part of the GED.
And freedom of
getting ready to take the GED test? This helpful video will walk you through the basics about the extended response that you'll be writing for the GED test. First, what is an extended response? Basically, the extended response is the essay portion of the GED test. In this video, you'll hear us call it either the extended response or just your response. There is one extended response on the GED test. It's on the Reasoning Through Language Arts section of the test, called RLA for short. The score that you receive on the extended response makes up about 20% of your total score for that test subject. That means a high-scoring response could make all the difference when it comes to whether you pass the test. Here's what the extended response will look like on test day. On the upper right side of the screen, you'll see the statement that tells you what you should write about. On the left side of the screen, you'll see several pages of text. These are the passages that you'll need to analyze in your response. As you can see for this example, there are 4 pages of passages to review, but it will vary by test. Be sure to read all the pages by clicking through these tabs. On the bottom right side of the screen, you can see the text box where you'll create your response. The text box expands as you type, so don't make the mistake of thinking your response should only fill this small box. And while you're writing your response, you'll be able to use the cut, copy, paste, undo, and redo buttons that you see here. Now you know the basics of the extended response and what it will look like on test day. Next, let's go over some important guidelines to keep in mind as you write your response. The extended response instructions will tell you to read and analyze one or more passages and make an argument based on what you read. For instance, you may be asked to look at evidence for two opposing points of view and make an argument about which side has the best evidence. It's important to remember that you're being asked to make an argument based on your analysis of the evidence, not to summarize and not to give your opinion on the topic. When writing your response, it's important that you use the evidence from the passages to support your argument. You can use quotes or summarize details from the passages as evidence, but you must explain why you're using the evidence you've included and how it supports your overall argument. How long should your essay be? You'll have 45 minutes to write the RLA extended response. In that time, try to write at least 4 to 7 paragraphs, with several sentences in each paragraph. This can quickly add up to 300 to 500 words. And remember, make sure that most of what you write reflects your own thinking, not the thinking of the writers of the passages you read. Without your own ideas and explanations, you're not really showing off your writing skills and may not score very well. Okay, now that you know the basics of the extended response, you can take a look at what a perfect scoring extended response looks like. Download the sample extended response to review. You can also download the instructions and passages so you can practice your own GED test extended response.
All right, so that gives you an idea of what is the extended response. This next.
The opera is where society puts itself on display. Marion can meet some more suitable young people.
Welcome to another Smart Cards GED test video tutorial. In this tutorial, you will learn about the parts of a sentence. This tutorial corresponds with the Language Arts Assessment Target and the Grammar and Usage Content area on the GED test. So let's go ahead and get started. In this tutorial, we're going to cover the subject of a sentence, the predicate of a sentence, action and linking verbs, subject-verb agreement, as well as what a complete sentence is. The subject of a sentence is the someone or something the sentence is about. If the sentence is about someone, then the subject must be a person. If the sentence is about something, then the subject must be a place, thing, or idea. Here are the types of subjects. We have a simple subject, which is the central focus of the full subject. For example, the small, spunky puppy barked at the stranger. Puppy would be the simple subject of the sentence. Then we also have the full subject. This consists of the simple subject and all the words that modify it. For example, the small, spunky puppy barked at the stranger. Small, spunky puppy is the full subject of the sentence. The predicate of a sentence is identified by the verb or verb phrase, which indicates what the subject does, what is done to the subject, or the state of being of the subject. The types of predicates are as follows. We have a simple predicate, which is the main verb in the predicate. For example, the abandoned house creaks at night. Creaks is the main verb or simple predicate of the sentence. We also have the full predicate. This is the simple predicate and all the words that modify it. Again, for example, the abandoned house creaks at night. Creaks at night is the full predicate of the sentence. Let's take a closer look. The abandoned house creaks at night. Creaks is not only the main verb in the sentence, but also what's known as an action verb. An action verb tells what a subject does, did, or will do. Creaks tells what the abandoned house does at night. Let's look at this example. The abandoned house is red. Is the main verb in the sentence, and it's also a linking verb. A linking verb connects the subject to the other words in the sentence that tell more about it. A linking verb does not show action. So the main verb in the sentence is either an action verb or a linking verb. As it relates to subjects and verbs, a sentence is considered grammatically correct when the subject and verb agree in number and person. The agreement rules are as follows. When the subject and verb are separated by words, the verb must agree with the subject and not with the nearest noun or pronoun. For example, the 4 DVDs which belonged to Kelly was left in the closet. Was is a singular linking verb, and it is in agreement with Kelly, the closest noun. But Kelly is not the subject of the sentence. The subject of the sentence is DVDs. The correction is as follows. The 4 DVDs which belonged to Kelly were left in the closet. DVDs is plural, so the linking verb were must be used. The sentence is now grammatically correct. The second agreement rule states, when a singular and plural subject are joined by or nor, the verb agrees with the closest noun. For example, the boxer nor the soccer players were excited. The subject of the sentence is boxer and soccer players. The linking verb is closest to the plural subject soccer players. So the plural linking verb were must be used. Hence, this sentence is grammatically correct. If we were to switch the places of the singular and plural elements of the subject, we must use a different verb. For example, the soccer players nor the boxer was excited. In this example, the linking verb is closest to the singular subject boxer. So the singular linking verb was must be used. Hence, this sentence is grammatically correct. And lastly, not only must the sentence be grammatically correct, but also complete. That is, containing both a subject and a verb and expressing a complete thought. Let's look at some examples of incomplete sentences. Cookies better than donuts. This sentence is incomplete because it's missing a verb. Let's complete this sentence. Cookies are better than donuts. Are is the linking verb in this sentence. Ran around the track. This is an incomplete sentence because it's missing a subject. Let's complete this sentence by giving it a subject. Jackie ran around the track. This is now a complete sentence. When the waiter dropped the tray. This is an incomplete sentence because it does not express a complete thought. Let's complete the thought, thereby completing the sentence. When the waiter dropped the tray, the patrons cheered. This is now a complete sentence. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for a new tutorial next week.
Okay. So again, some of that being review. We've talked about where to put commas. We've talked about conjunctions, fanboys, for and, or, etc. Simple sentences, compound sentences. So we've been doing a lot of work on that kind of stuff. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take on a piece of paper, and I want you to write this a sentence. Here are the instructions. I want you to write a sentence that would be the first sentence in a letter you are writing to someone that you want to apply for a job. So you're writing this letter to someone and you want to apply for a job with this person you're writing the letter to. What would be your first opening sentence. We want factual information. So think about that for a couple of minutes and write a sentence that would be the first sentence you would write in a letter, and you're writing that letter to someone that you're wanting to apply for a job with. You're asking them, you're trying to convince them in this letter that you want the job. What would be the first thing you would say? Basically, this first sentence is introducing yourself. You're introducing yourself to this person because you want to apply for a job. What is that first sentence going to be? All right, I'm going to model for you what I would write. Okay, if I were writing this sentence, I would start off my letter by saying, my name is Jimmy Bostock, and I am an adult education instructor. That would be my first sentence, introducing myself to someone that I'm writing a letter to, trying to get a job. If you would like to share your sentence, it's not a requirement today, but we are going to eventually be sharing our sentences with everybody. If you would like to share your sentence, you can put it in the chat so we can see what you put. There's no correct answer other than it being a sentence that is a complete sentence, grammatically correct. So is there anybody that wants to share their sentence? No? That's good. I like that. My only critique of that would be the beginning of that would probably be the salutation. You would start your letter, Mr. Bostock, and you would put a colon typically, and then your sentence would say, my name is. Okay, good. These are some good ones. Good. I like those. Very good. Good. Anybody else? Okay. Well, again, if you don't want to share it right now, that's fine, but we are going to eventually be sharing our sentences and critiquing each other positively and saying, you know, this is good, or you might want to change this to this, or you might want to fix this. Okay, we're going to be doing some exercises like this. That's okay. I mean, that's a good start. There's nothing wrong with that. We're going to be doing some exercises like that. You do have a grammar assignment today. It's very similar to the one that you did on Thursday, where it's some multiple choice kind of questions, and I think there's one section where you actually have to write out some sentences or correct some sentences. We are kind of running close on time, so a couple of announcements and information. First of all, for the benefit of our new students, excuse me, you should have gotten that class rules sheet, and it goes through some very important information. If you did not read it, you need to make sure that you go back and read it. Each student is required to get 6 hours of instruction per week. Typically, if you attend class, you typically get between 3 and 4 hours unless you come in late or leave early. But for the most part, if you come to class on Tuesday and come to class on Thursday, you'll get your 6 hours. But if for some reason you don't, then you've got to make up that time in Essential Ed or in Aztec, one of the two. And I sent everybody the login sheet, new folks login sheet that gives you your login information on how to get into Essential Ed or Aztec. Communication is very important. If you are going to be out, you need to make sure you let me know so that I know what's going on. Okay. Homework. Let me show this. Even though the new folks, you cannot get into this yet, but I want you to see. Yeah, I know. She's already been talking to me. She's supposed to get it fixed, so it should be any time here soon. Okay. I'm actually going to log completely out. And let me switch my window.
Mr. B, quick question.
Yes, ma'am.
Were you able to update our hours? I wasn't sure because I don't think I had looked at it and I didn't know where I left off at. I know you told me you were going to put my post-test hours up there.
Nothing is up to date as far as up to today. Now, everything from last week, except for Essential Ed and Aztec hours, I don't get those in until the next week. So this week I'll be putting up the Essential Ed and Aztec hours in for last week. So
Okay.
those sort of lag a week behind because I do Monday to Sunday, and so I don't get those until Sunday. And sometimes I'm able to go in, but usually it's when I do today's attendance, I will be putting in the Aztec and Essential Ed hours for last week on and they'll be showing up on the Friday column.
Okay, okay. I haven't done that yet, but I was referring to the one on the 18th. But I'll double check it again, okay?
Yeah, and if it shows that there's a 0 hours there, then again remind me. I was testing on that day. Y'all know how I get. I am old. I am old as dirt, and so that's what my kids tell me. And so I forget things really. And my short-term memory is horrible. I mean, really horrible. Okay, new folks. You will not be able to get into this yet, but you will in a few days. I will send you notification, or you can check yourself, because at the bottom of that login sheet that I gave you, it gives you the website, the web address up here, the link to get to our Blackboard site. It'll have your 900 number, which is your username, and the password. So when you get to Blackboard, you log in with your 900 number, your password. When you log in, it will take you to a page that looks like this. Right here where it says My Courses. You won't have all of this other stuff because I'm an instructor, but you'll have a box that says My Courses, and it'll say Fall ABE Distance Ed Tuesday, Thursday. You click on that. Yes, Blackboard is where you upload your homework and you get your homework. You download your homework and you upload your homework. Okay, once you get in, it will take you to the announcements page. This is the page that always opens up, and here are all the announcements. Okay, it goes all the way back to the beginning, basically. And over here on the left, on this black bar, there are sections. The top section here says TTF830. This is your class. There are 3 classes that use this Blackboard site. The Tuesday, Thursday morning class, the Tuesday, Thursday afternoon class, and my Monday, Wednesday face-to-face class all have access to Blackboard. This is your stuff up here. This is where you will go. You will not go down here because these are different classes. In our class section, right here where it says TTF830 class page, when you click on that, should have a banner across the top here that says TTF830 folder page. This is where all the folders are. Here's a link on how to submit your assignments into Blackboard. There's a step-by-step written guide, and there's a video that shows you step by step what you do in order to upload your homework. Here's where you can check to make sure that assignments have been checked by me. I set a 100-point score, and if you've done the work, I give you 100. If you've only done part of it, I may give you, an 80 or a 70 or whatever. There's no grade you're getting for the class. It just gives you an idea of whether or not you've completed all of the work or not. Here you can check your attendance. Here's a section that's new on testing. So all of that stuff that we've talked about before about tests and taking tests, here's it explained. That's all in this testing folder. Okay, right here, which is testing information. Here's some important class documents. Here's some websites, our previous vocabulary list. And then here is a folder that has previous class sessions. each class that we have has a folder and the date. So here is today's folder. You will not be able to see it. I can see it because I'm the teacher. You will be able to see it after 1 o'clock when you finally get access to Blackboard. So the students that have access to Blackboard right now, they can't see it until 1 o'clock. But when you click on a folder page, the folder page opens up, and all of the videos that we have watched for the day, here are the videos that we watched. Here's the guided practice worksheets with the answers. Here are the classwork worksheets with the answers. Here were the 2 videos that we watched on grammar. Here's the worksheet that that you're going to do for homework that is available for the homework. Typically, we've had time to kind of start it in class, but today we didn't. And then down here at the bottom, in red, will always be the assignment. So you have a math worksheet to do. You have a grammar worksheet to do. Those of you that are new, you don't have access to this yet, so you need to send me an email and say, will you please send me today's homework assignments? These are due by Thursday. They're always due the next class session. You will submit them on this day. So again, follow the directions that are on the video that's back out here on our class page, right here where it says how to submit your assignments, step-by-step video on how you do that. But new folks, you cannot get into this yet. It will take a couple of days. It may even be Friday before you get access. It has to go through its cycle and do its thing. Until then, you need to contact me and ask me for the homework. But as soon as yes, Mr. Rich, you have access now. Okay. All right, any questions? New folks, you need to send me an email asking for the homework. I will let you know when you have access to this. Everyone else, if I talk to you about, yes, you'll just send me the homework back in an email until you have access to this. All right, that's all I've got for today. Have a good day. We don't have a ticket out the door today. I'll see you on Thursday. Please have a good rest of your day. Have a good Wednesday, and I will see you on Thursday. Yes, ma'am.
You have a good one. It feels good to stay in until 12:30. I'm here thinking that I missed something.
Oh.
It feels good. All right, Mr. B, I'll see you Thursday.
Okay, sounds good.
Alrighty.
Y'all be safe.
Bye-bye. You too.
I got a quick question. This Orlando.
Yes, sir.
So do I just go to the Georgia thing, like where it's on, and do I like just type that in and it'll go straight to it, or like how do I do it?
That let me see if I can pull up. You should have a. Let me see. Give me a second here.
Because I need to make sure I do my work anytime I get kicked out of class.
Right, that's right, because you will if you don't. All right, let me see if I can switch my screen. I pulled up somebody that's not in the class anymore, so I'm not giving out any personal information, but close that, go here.
I just need to know how to do it and how to get in.
Okay. You should have gotten a document that looks like this.
On my email?
When you first came to class, when you got your welcome letter,
Oh,
you were sent login sheet, and it has the login link for Essential Ed, tells you how to log in using your email. There's your password. There's the link for Aztec. There's the username and password. And then at the bottom was the Blackboard. That's the link you use to get to the Blackboard site. You would put in your 900 number, and this is the generic password that we use for everybody. You can change it later if you want. If you can't find this sheet, you need to let me know and I can resend it to you.
Can you go ahead and resend it for me then?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll do that. Anybody else have any questions?
I have a question.
Okay.
So is the work on the Blackboard or is on Essential Ed, or which app is it on? Because I tried to log into the Blackboard and I can't get into it.
Right. You cannot log into Blackboard yet. You have to attend class first. And now that because actually you're in Blackboard right now, you just went in through a back door. But now that you're in, it is going to start processing your account. And so right now you cannot log into Blackboard. You can log into Essential Ed or Aztec. Those are extra platforms that you can use to either make up time that you missed or that you can use to get extra help. Both of those, Aztec and Essential Ed, when you first log in, it's going to give you sort of a test. And when you finish the test, it's going to say, okay, here's what you know, here's what you don't know. Let's work on the things you do not know. And it'll start giving you lessons on the things that you need help with. So it's a good way to be able to get caught up. If you feel like you're kind of lost on some things, it's a good way for you to get kind of back on track. So it's a very good tutoring platform that you can use to get some extra help. Okay. So right now you cannot get into Blackboard. I will let you know the instant that you have access to Blackboard, but you will have to email me and ask for the assignments and send your assignments to me through email when you finish them until you have access to Blackboard. Then you will go into Blackboard and get your assignments, and you will turn in your assignments all through Blackboard.
Mr. B, never mind. You don't have to send that out there. See, I didn't know what that was.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Sounds good. Yes, sir. Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
I got a question.
Yes, sir.
So, with the Essential Ed and the Aztec, do we need both of them or do we only need one?
I provide both. Some people prefer Aztec. Some people prefer Essential Ed. So my suggestion would be go into one of them and try it out, and then go into the other one and try it out and see which one you like better.
Okay, because last night I was trying to get everything set up, and I got the Essential Ed after I had emailed you and let you know I couldn't get in.
Okay.
I was putting in the wrong email and password, and then I couldn't get into Aztec at all.
Okay. Then what you need to do is send me an email now saying I cannot get into Aztec, and I will go in and find out what's wrong with your account. You have to make sure with Aztec, though, your login is your name, and you have to put the dot in between your first name and last name, and you have to capitalize your first name and capitalize your last name. A lot of people mess up when they try to log in to Aztec. They forget to put the capital letters and they forget to put the dot in between. But if you cannot get in, send me an email saying I cannot get into Aztec, and I will go in and check it and see if there's an error. There could be something set wrong or something.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Anybody else? Okay, well, class is over, so y'all need to be signing out so that I can get out, because I got to go.
If you liked this video, please click on the thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, please click on the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified when new videos are posted, please click the bell.